Welcome to HFY Sci-Fi channel. Don't forget to subscribe and explore. No veil covered her face. No curtain parted with ceremony. Just dry wind dragging loose ash across her feet as she stepped forward. Bare, wounded, blue. Where a limb should have been, clean skin dipped into sealed bone. A hollow socket gleaming dully in the afternoon heat. No handler behind her. No guard. Only her. Only the dust lifting against her ankles and the silence that followed as if the entire district had held breath at once. She did not bow. Did not glance sideways. Did not raise her chin for defiance or drop her gaze for pity. From beneath her working arm, a placard emerged. Scratched wood, splintered at the corner. Words burned in uneven strokes. 1 credit for a prosthetic. I'll clean your home. No contracts. No ownership. She held it like a ritual, not an appeal. Across the broken stands, bodies shifted. Steel chairs scraped concrete. A man coughed too loud, too sharp. Somewhere overhead, a surveillance drone adjusted altitude. Lights dimmed to non-interference. Nothing moved on the platform but the sway of her balance. Subtle, quiet, calculated. Every movement borrowed the discipline of someone who had once known how to dance but hadn't heard music in years. In the front row, an older woman adjusted her shawl and whispered to no one. 2 merchants leaned close, laughter forced between clenched teeth. They'd seen prettier ones. Younger too, both armed, willing to beg. This one didn't flinch when someone spat in her direction. The spit never reached her. The wind was cruel but impartial. Behind her, beyond the yellow line where platform met market ground, boys selling cooled brine fruit stopped shouting. Their trays dangled on leather slings, heavy with unbought stock. Even the dogs, those starving, rag-patched creatures that haunted Zone 12, kept their distance, as if something about her presence confused their instincts. Not fear, not authority, just wrongness without a name. The auctioneer didn't look up at first. Busy with a compad, stylus tapping mindlessly against the corner. He'd seen these types, always after a pity purchase, trying to weaponize some lost war or twisted sob story. When he finally raised his eyes, the stylus dropped from his fingers. She didn't speak. That made it worse. Silence had a weight in this place, heavier than price tags or sentence terms. The screen beside her remained blank. No bidding initiated. No voice submitted a claim. The system pinged twice, indicating her offer was open, valid, legal. A single credit. Not for purchase, just for repair. No one moved. Not the woman with bloodshot eyes under merchant makeup. Not the scavenger in the 5th row with half a lung and 2 stolen IDs. Not even the off-duty enforcer leaning against a cracked beam, sipping recycled beer from a plastic cup. His hand tightened slightly on the grip. Just slightly. Her chest rose once. Breath caught low. Not nervous. Not expectant. Just the machinery of survival continuing its rhythm despite all reason not to. A strand of silver hair slipped loose and clung to her lip. She didn't brush it away. Somewhere behind the crowd, a child asked if it was true aliens could regrow limbs. The mother hissed back something about disrespect, about shame, about looking away. Sunlight shifted, not by drama but by clock. Shadows stretched across her thighs. No offer submitted. No buyer announced. Timer in the top corner of the auction wall began to blink. Regulations required minimum stand time. After that, the system would clear her submission as declined due to lack of interest. A bureaucratic phrase that meant what everyone already knew. She had value once. Not here. Not anymore. Her weight shifted again. Not stepping forward. Not retreating. Just realigning spine to heel as though the platform beneath her might tilt or buckle. As though she could read tension in the cracked ferrocrete. At the edge of the crowd, a man rubbed his jaw with the back of his hand. Eyes unreadable beneath a grease-streaked brow. He didn't speak. Didn't point. Just stood. The auctioneer glanced toward him once. No motion returned. The timer blinked louder. She did not lower the placard. Did not tremble. No display. No dramatics. But something about her stance, shoulders square, left hand curled just so against the splintered wood. made it impossible to look away. No one wanted the burden. Not the girl. Not the message. Not what it said about them. Still she stood. The laugh came late, sharp across the mic, hot with contempt. Auctioneer leaned forward without rising, his voice dry as old plastic. "What's this? Charity theater?" A few snorts followed from the second row. He scratched at his scalp, peeled a flake of dried skin from his temple, stared at her like a puzzle missing pieces he didn't care to find. "You think someone's gonna waste a credit on a limb you'll never learn to use?" Her body remained still. Even the placard, clenched in a grip bone-thin but unshaking, didn't move. He tapped the screen, made a show of scrolling options. No ownership, no guarantee, no skills listed. Not even verified domestic clearance. What are we auctioning here? A pity date. A chuckle from the crowd. Short, nervous, mean. Laughter never echoed here. It clung. She didn't blink. On the far side, two dockhands began to mimic her stance. One holding up a broken broom, swaying side to side, groaning dramatically. Their shift badges dangled, scuffed and unreadable. The auctioneer didn't stop them. Let the show continue. Attention was currency. Cruelty kept it moving. Someone in the third row whispered about her scent. Said the aliens always carried something sour under their skin. Something oily that soaked into furniture. Another voice added that you couldn't disinfect them properly. Not even with bleachers or solvents. Someone else swore her kind bred mold in the corners of living quarters. Nothing confirmed. Nothing new. Just words thrown like seeds on cold pavement. No reaction. Not from her. Not even the slightest pull at the corner of the mouth. No twitch along the jawline. No sharp intake of breath. The platform held her as if part of its original design. Not an addition. Not a guest. Just another piece of machinery. Unwanted, rusting, refused. A woman at the edge of the aisle looked once. Just once. Then turned away. Tugged her scarf tighter. Bit her lower lip. Her eyes said she wanted to help, but her spine disagreed. Regulation countdown adjusted in silent increments. 57 minutes remained before platform auto-cleared. No override needed. The system would redact her entry as failed, voided, not rejected. Language mattered on paper. In this square, truth never touched ink. Another bottle rolled underfoot, kicked from behind by an unseen figure. It spun in a slow arc, came to rest against her left heel. She didn't step aside. A child asked again what she was doing up there. The father this time said nothing, just squeezed the boy's shoulder hard enough to quiet the next question. Market breeze carried food smoke in irregular bursts. Roasted marrow, fermented roots, over-fried starch. Enough to nauseate if you hadn't eaten. She hadn't. Anyone could tell. But no droop in the shoulders. No hand against the stomach. Not even a shift of weight to ease a cramp. The auctioneer yawned. Real unperformed. He stretched his arms above his head, checked the clock. "She'll be gone by sunset," he muttered. Not to anyone, just for the drone to hear. A record of patience, of process. One woman raised a hand halfway, as if by mistake. Lowered it fast, adjusted her sleeve. Behind the crowd, an old vet leaned on a cane, eyes unreadable. Spit thickly onto the pavement. Looked away. Everyone looked away. No voice called. No screen lit. A breeze lifted her hair slightly, brushed it against her collarbone like a memory trying to escape. The placard stayed up. Arm locked. Mouth closed. Minutes passed. Seconds dragged behind them like limping dogs. Platform lights dimmed once to recalibrate sensors. A warning flash for those waiting to bid. Still no movement. No claim. No interest. No intention. Pigeon landed near her foot. Pecked at a crumb. Fluttered off. One man in uniform leaned close to another and murmured that maybe she used to be beautiful. Before the war. Before the blast. Before whatever took her arm and replaced her purpose with silence. She didn't defend her past. Didn't offer one. Sun dipped lower. Long beams of orange split between steel ribs in the ceiling. Timer ticked past midpoint. The auctioneer began to hum. tuneless, low. Some in the back began leaving. Not loudly, not ashamed, just done. Conversation resumed. A cough, a sneeze, footsteps on grit. One chair scraped louder than it needed to. The platform remained occupied. She did not cry, not even once. Near the back, where rust stains ate through the concrete like old wounds refusing to close, a figure leaned against a support beam half swallowed by dust and shadow. No badge, no weapon. Just a man layered in grime and burn scars, boots half unlaced. Sleeves rolled past the wrist to reveal melted skin too patterned to be accident. One eye narrowed against the light, the other never blinked. His breath hung thick in the stale air, not from nerves, more like memory returning uninvited. He hadn't spoken since registration. No one remembered him arriving. The seat beside him stayed empty, not out of respect but discomfort. He carried a silence that didn't feel polite. At first, no one noticed him move. Not the auctioneer, still half amused, stylus tapping against his thigh. Not the boy selling recycled lighters by the stairwell. Not the cleaner sweeping old ash into a corner behind the beverage crate. A single footstep, then another. Boots heavy, uneven. Not limping but dragging something older than injury. The kind of movement that came from learning how not to flinch in buildings wired to explode. He walked past two women mid-conversation. They broke apart without meaning to. Voices dropped. One of them tilted her head, pretending to check her compad. The other just stepped back, barely breathing. Dust shifted under his weight. Nothing rushed, nothing showy, just motion that dared interruption. By the time he reached the yellow line, the auctioneer finally looked up. One eyebrow arched, a chuckle forming but never released. The man raised his arm. One credit chip rested between thumb and middle finger. Scuffed, edge-worn, real. No counterfeit shimmer, no hesitation in the offer. He didn't toss it, didn't raise his voice, just stepped forward one more time, past the regulation buffer, past the point most knew not to cross without sanction. Voice low, clear, too tired to be theatrical. Not to own, just to help. No laughter followed. Not immediately. A gasp near the left post. Someone muttered idiot under their breath. Too low to carry. A trader behind the ticket booth leaned forward, mouth open. The auctioneer blinked twice, once fast, once slow. He reached for the screen, hesitated. Reached again. Sir, that's not. A pause. Rulebook Clause 13C. Any bid matching the requested amount finalizes the offer. No revisions, no second calls. Regardless of intent, wording, or outcome, the bid completes the transaction. The chip touched the podium. Transaction complete. Lights on the platform turned blue. No confetti. No celebration. Just a shift in hue, cold and unfeeling, marking end of sale. Her sign lowered. She didn't look at him. Not right away. Arm dropped slowly, placard brushing against her thigh before slipping from grip to platform floor. It hit with a dry sound. Wood on steel. Quiet enough to be missed. Loud enough to leave a mark. Gasps turned to silence. The crowd held position, not in respect, not in solidarity. Just uncertainty. Waiting for reversal, loophole, security breach. None came. The auctioneer leaned back, chair creaking. His screen blinked red. Locked out. Transaction complete. She was no longer up for offer. One woman grabbed her bag and left. A man shook his head and spat on the ground. Somewhere near the corner, a young vendor laughed too loud and too long, until it broke into coughing. On the platform, she didn't smile. He didn't move closer. Just stood watching her breathe. Watching her regain possession of a body that had never truly been lost, but no longer permitted itself to remain a commodity. Auction ended. No one applauded. She stepped off the platform without looking back. No ceremony marked her descent. No crowd parted. Those who hadn't already turned away found interest elsewhere, in food carts or betting slips or anything that required less stillness. The man who bid followed at a slight distance, not behind her, not beside her, just near enough to count as movement in the same direction. Metal grated underfoot. The auction square gave way to cracked walkways warped by time and shell weight. Above them, balconies sagged under rusted rails. Their shadows stretched like claws across the street, but carried no threat. Just age. Just reminders. No words passed between them. Not from him. Not from her. They passed a mural half-buried in soot. Two alien warriors locked in victory stance. Once glorious, now faded to blue-black outlines. Someone had tagged a human face over one of them. Red paint still fresh enough to smell. Her gaze didn't shift toward it. Around corners, shapes moved. Old men with melted jackets stared from doorframes. One hand always tucked beneath layers. Eyes didn't blink, but didn't linger either. Children peeked from behind carts, whispered names, none of which belonged to her. They said things like traitor or lucky or wrong. A boot scuffed stone behind them. Surveillance drone overhead adjusted path. Low hum. Lights dimmed to low priority watch. Their movement logged. No interference registered. Too public to act. Too quiet to justify. One boy spat on the ground as they passed. Not at her. Just near her. Precision in insult without courage for confrontation. Buildings leaned like drunks against each other. Windows blind with dust. One screen glitched static from a wall unit mounted too high to reach. Too broken to be replaced. Broadcast kept looping a sanitation update from 3 weeks back. No one listened. They turned into a narrow cut between two freight blocks where sunlight didn't reach. No map pointed there. No signs. Just memory and rot. Rusted wire crisscrossed overhead. Old banners hung like corpses, their slogans erased by wind and apathy. She kept walking. The clinic had no name. Just a door without a handle, painted with grease and pressure marks. He knocked twice. No code, no signal. Just habit. Door opened. No questions asked. Inside, rust smell mingled with cleaning agent. A woman with a voice made of gravel pointed to the back table. The man paid without counting. The chip clicked against metal and vanished into a drawer that hadn't closed properly in years. She sat. Jacket peeled from shoulder. Skin revealed clean but scarred. Socket interface exposed, waiting for the shape it had once imagined but never known. The replacement wasn't new. Not by a long measure. Forearm scratched, joints slightly misaligned, nails uneven. A Model 3 generations old. Repainted in haste, grip sensors barely intact. But it responded to nerve signals. It moved. No gasp escaped her lips. No test swing, no flex of power. She lifted it once, turned palm upward, rotated wrist with machine precision, placed hand back down, looked at it like a stranger who would not be leaving. He said nothing. She didn't nod. The woman behind the drawer smirked, lit a recycled cigarette. Smoke crawled toward the ceiling. They left through the same door. City hadn't changed in their absence. Street still cracked. Light still thin. Smell of boiled roots drifting in from a cart run by someone too tired to shout prices. They kept walking. No one followed. But windows watched. Curtains shifted. Door slits stayed open longer than they should. Not one word had passed between them. Not one look held longer than needed. Yet the space around them had grown colder. Not from weather. From memory taking shape again. Memory not theirs. They kept walking. She returned before sunrise. No escort. No announcement. The sky still held that bruised tint between blue and ash, and the air stank of melted plastic and forgotten fire. Her boots landed light on scorched concrete, almost cautious, though her pace never paused. The gate to Sector E3 hung off one hinge, twisted metal brushing against brick like an old warning too exhausted to scream. The place had been sealed unofficially. No tape, no signs, just silence and rot thick enough to make breath slow. 3 shelters remained under partial roof. Each entrance sagged inward, blackened by smoke and refusal. No one lived there. No one scavenged. No one had returned, not because it was forbidden but because it was untouched. The kind of untouched that warned something still lingered. She stepped through the gap anyway. First structure on the left. Inner corridor warped from blast heat. Ceiling panels curled back like petals made of char. Her mechanical arm brushed against a collapsed beam. Not out of carelessness, contact felt necessary. Contact made things real. No sweeping gaze, no scanning for threat. She crouched near the wall, ran one finger across its surface. Ash smeared across her palm, and beneath it, paint emerged. Red, or maybe brown. Hard to say through time. She touched it again. Not to test, just to remember. The bucket came later. Metal, dented, carried from 3 blocks east where public utilities had long been stripped. But someone had left half a bar of degreaser near a broken washbasin. Her steps were quiet even when hauling rusted water jugs. She started with the corners. Most wouldn't have. Corners trapped the worst of it. Smoke, blood, skin flakes. Places no mop reached unless the hand behind it meant to make it count. She pressed her weight into each stroke. No waste in movement. Arm moved as though it belonged. Wrist twisting just enough to send black water running sideways across stone. By mid-morning, flies circled less often. No conversation passed between her and the man when he showed up. He didn't announce his presence, didn't offer help. Just leaned against the outer wall, eyes tracking the rhythm of her motion like someone listening to music played too softly to follow. Second day he brought gloves. Didn't ask if she wanted them. Left them folded beside a stack of broken tiles near shelter 2. She didn't wear them. Didn't refuse them either. Third day he arrived with a crowbar. Handed it to her without explanation. She used it to pry open an old locker sealed with melted bone inside the hinge. The stench hit hard. She didn't gag. Just turned her face, waited for the burn to pass, and kept pulling. She never told him what she'd lost in that place. He never asked. They worked in silence that made time feel uncertain. Sometimes they were there for hours. Sometimes all day. They didn't track days. Not out loud. Just arrived, cleaned, and left when motion became pointless. The shelters stopped feeling haunted. Not cleansed. Not restored. Just acknowledged. Rumors started in the residential block first. Whispers behind curtain glass. Someone claimed to have seen her scrubbing burn marks with her bare hands. Knuckles split but not bleeding. Another swore the prosthetic arm glowed when touching the walls. No one could confirm it. One scavenger insisted she was erasing names carved into brick. Names of dead humans, not her own kind. She never responded. Just returned every morning. Same time. Same route. No one paid her. No one asked her to come. But no one stopped her either. A child once left a flower outside shelter 3. Wilted. No stem. Just a purple petal cupped in a juice cap. She stepped over it without pause. Hours later, the cap was gone. The flower remained. By the second week, paint began to appear on the exterior bricks. Not graffiti. Not insults. Just symbols. Quiet ones. Lines crossed with circles. Marks without translation. She didn't remove them. He started carrying 2 tool belts. One larger than needed. She never wore his, but she took a wrench from it when the drain line cracked. Replaced it after. No words passed between them. At night, light from her corner of the district shone different. Not bright, not loud, just present. A dim haze of movement where once there was nothing. People kept whispering. No one touched her. She kept cleaning. Warning notices appeared first. Not on her shelter. Not in person. Just scattered across digital boards no one trusted. Blocks of text with no signature. Codes linked to enforcement channels that hadn't processed real orders in years. The phrasing was sharp enough to sound official but vague enough to deny origin. Language like interference, disruption, unlicensed occupation. Words that could mean anything or nothing. By the time patrols arrived, 2 shelters had already been swept twice and restructured by hand. The walls were still black, but the stains had been pushed back into lines. Contained, not erased. Floor tiles sat in neat stacks by the doorways. A clothesline hung between 2 rebar poles, holding a single towel. The officers never entered. No command told them to. They stood outside, recorded bodycam footage, marked coordinates, then moved on. No one met their eyes. In the market, Someone set up a booth overnight with a sign that read she cleans where even ghosts shut their mouths. It vanished by morning. Reports flooded local terminals. Some accurate, most not. One claimed she was being paid under the table by off-world agitators. Another accused her of poisoning the ground with subliminal resonance. The loudest rumor insisted her prosthetic had been stolen from a disabled human child. No proof, no charges, just noise. Protesters arrived in waves. The first group marched in silence. Masks over their mouths. Signs painted in red block. They stood outside Shelter 1 until her shadow crossed the doorway, then left without a word. The second group wore cleaner uniforms. Older models. Their chants lacked rhythm but carried volume. They threw plastic containers at the door and called her a desecrator. She kept cleaning. A third group showed up with music. Old liberation songs, distorted through handheld speakers. They held torches, not lit, just lifted. Some cried. Some took pictures. One woman dropped to her knees and pressed her palms against the concrete. When she stood, her hands left smudges. She didn't wipe them off. He was seen watching from the roof once, sitting on a vent casing, legs crossed, boots dangling off the edge like they didn't remember falling was real. Reporters tried to reach him. Messages sent. Drones hovered. No response. The few who approached him in person walked away without sound recordings. Not silenced. Just empty. As if he never spoke. Unauthorized footage began spreading. Grainy at first. Shaky angles. Drones not registered. Flying low. Close enough to capture detail but not alarm systems. One showed her pressing both hands into grime until the outline of a face became visible in the soot. Another caught her pausing mid-stroke, eyes fixed on a bloodstain that hadn't faded after 4 days of scrubbing. She touched it once. Continued. Black market feeds picked it up next. Tagged under reclassification activism, identity renewal, war child reclamation. The names changed daily. The footage didn't. Street vendors sold small cards with her silhouette etched in rust ink. No face, just her back, kneeling, prosthetic braced against a cracked wall. Local councils convened and disbanded. Arguments dissolved into redirected memos. Nothing passed. Nothing enforced. Someone tried to break into Shelter 2 with acid spray. They left half a canister behind, still pressurized. She painted over the burn the same afternoon. Another tried to bribe her. 3 credits. Offered gently. She never touched the payment. He dropped the chips at her feet. Walked away an hour later without looking back. The credits remained untouched until morning. Gone by midday. No one admitted taking them. She never issued a statement. Never altered her path. The stains thinned. Walls grew lighter. The cleaning never stopped. What spread wasn't her. Not her words. Not her name. Just an image. Someone choosing to scrub pain out of places people pretended had healed already. Not to fix. Not to preach. Just to clean. No one could stop it. No one remembered trying. The platform still stands. Not raised. Not guarded. Just there. Surrounded by sagging booths and steel poles that once held auction banners too torn to reuse. Paint stripped from every wall except the far corner, where the plank rests. Upright, splintered, no polish, no plaque. One arm bolted into its center. Mechanical. Scratched. Middle finger permanently fused, half-curled. As if caught mid-reach and never allowed to finish. No lights shine on it. No speaker plays remembrance. Dust gathers without resistance. But people come. No tour guides lead them. No programs mark the route. Some bring children, point without speaking, wait a moment too long, then leave with nothing purchased. The phrase stays etched just beneath the joint. Not carved. Not stamped. Burned in. Letters uneven. Depth inconsistent. You can still see the shaking in the line between N and E. No one's tried to repaint it. That would ruin something. No one's sure what. 1 credit. No ownership. Stories vary. Some say she died cleaning a tunnel flooded with coolant runoff. Others insist she joined a border crew headed off-world. One rumor claims she melted her arm down, Used the parts to rebuild a breathing unit for a child caught in collapse. Nothing confirmed. No graves. No memorials. Just that platform. As for him, nobody saw the man again. Not officially. But every few years, a repair station in the out-district reports a silent mechanic fixing filtration lines in forgotten quarters. No record. No speech. Leaves before payment clears. Always alone. Always walking. The auction still operates. Not like before. Screens flicker more often. Bids move slower. Faces in the crowd carry something new in the eyes. Not guilt. Not pity. Something thinner. Something raw. Hesitation. Every month, 1 or 2 offers get rejected by the platform itself. The rules still allow 1 credit exchanges. But people use them differently now. Not for bodies. Not for labor. One woman offered a credit just to remove someone from the list. No replacement. Just removal. A boy once stepped forward without speaking and placed his own boot on the platform. No sign. No placard. Just a look that said, "I saw her. I remember." He stood until the timer expired. Walked off without glancing back. People let him go. No one mandates this shift. No law changed. No memo ordered it. But something did. Cleanup crews began working without assignment. Not all. Not enough. But more than before. One man was caught filling potholes in a burned transit zone. Another replaced broken vents in a shelter no one lived in. They carried no affiliation. Their uniforms didn't match. Markets whispered. Districts watched. Nothing official moved. Still, people showed up. Quiet. Hands dirty. Eyes tired. No banners. No slogans. Just effort. Years passed. The plank didn't rot. The arm didn't rust. No name attached. No story printed. Just one act. And those who came after.